Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review / knife overview to show you guys. This is the CJRB Nova, a very recent budget release from CJRB. It's got a bunch of different configurations that are currently available, so I'll link them right down in the description. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at the_metal_complex. And thanks to CJRB for sending this in. All right, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Overall length of the Nova is coming in at about 7.85 inches. Blade length is coming in at 3.35. Cutting edge is coming in at 3 1/4. How about some size comparisons? Any custom scales that you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others. So you can see here, this is not a huge knife. In fact, it's also very thin. I'll show that off here in a second. I would say it's definitely closer to the size of something like the AD 20.5, but I've got a better size comparison to share with you guys here in just a moment. Up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3, right in between, kind of up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. This is definitely much closer to the size of the Hogue Deca. And then let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, because I feel like this is kind of the territory that they're going for. I'm also going to turn it this way so you can see it is a thin knife. It's definitely not a knife that was, supposed to be like ultra robust or anything like that. They definitely went for the thin and compact, but still maximizing the amount of blade for the amount of object that you're carrying. You'll have to excuse my my kiddo in the background there. So how's the action on this knife? Well, the action's fine. Okay, so the thumb stud, as far as placement, is great. Little bit pokey, not bad, right? As far as deploying it, it's fine. The detent is fine for doing the reverse flick, doing the thumb flick. The weird thing for me, and it's just a little teeny tiny nitpick, is the amount of room that the lock bar has to move over, and then the amount of room that the detent ball has to basically be up. Like, you have to move the entire lock bar over and the detent ball, which is normally not a problem. But there's just the tiniest sliver of room left over. And what happens is you push it over and you go to turn it with one hand and you're like, why won't it come down? It's because that detent ball isn't quite up on the face of the blade. And you're basically having to hold this absolutely up against the G10 scale. This is a silly thing, but if you pick this knife up, you will notice that. You'll be like, oh yeah, that is a kind of a little bit weird. And then, you'll do what I'm doing, which is saying, but that's a silly thing to complain about, right? But then you'll find it to kind of be a little bit annoying. It does not make the knife unusable because you do not have to disengage it like that. You can disengage and use your index finger to push it down, which is what a lot of people do. It's specifically people who are going to do this and turn it and wait for it to drop. You really have to push it over, and it seems like it just takes a little bit extra. So be aware of that. It might not affect you. Carry profile thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. This is a thin knife. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. Where is the PM2? There it is. For some reason, that knife is almost always invisible to me. Yeah, this is going to be an easy knife to carry. In fact, it was super easy to carry. It felt like it was something that would disappear in my pocket, literally. I would sometimes forget to take it out of my pocket. So be aware of that. It is definitely on the compact and lighter side. Not crazy, though. It's not like the mini bug out. Height-wise, nowhere near as tall as the Para 3. Slightly longer, not by much. Let's go ahead and weigh it. What are we looking at for materials? We are looking at, in this case, G10 with a nested steel liner on both sides. And then we have AR RPM 9, AR RPM 9, which we now know to be essentially a spray form of 9CR18 MOV. Certainly just fine at this territory. Weight, 3.2 ounces, just about right where I consider it to be ultra lightweight, which is 3 ounces. That's fine. It's definitely lightweight, definitely compact. Balance slightly back of the pivot, but right in the middle of that, what I call the primary choil there, so it's not going to feel like a heavy knife, pretty much no matter who you are. Let's go ahead and get my tools out for a hardware check. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So the pivot and all of the body screws, I believe, are T8. Yes. So the pocket clip screws are going to be T6, and you do have a spot on both sides. The screw that's holding in the standoff back here is a T8 head, but these can be obviously switched around. So you use the T6 screws on this side and then T8 screw on the other side. Anyways, very easy to take apart and put back together as long as you have the right tools for the job. Should be good to go. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness real quick. Blade stock thickness, definitely going to be on the thinner side at 102 thousandths. Absolutely. Okay, meat and potatoes time. I feel like this is certainly another, like kind of bug out and Deca competitor. It seems like every company has their own competitor in this department these days, and that's fine. We have a compound tanto here, which is, I guess, what sets this apart from a lot of the other competition. CJRB really kind of already has their own bug out. They have the Hectare, and they also have the Pyrite. So maybe we're just kind of doing subtle, like different variations in the same category. I don't know. We have a very classic handle profile with kind of this like baby blue G10, which is nice. We don't see this color very often. You don't have to go with this color. You can get a super tactical OD green and black if you want to. There's a few different options, but this is fine. Peel ply textured. We have a little pivot collar right here, which looks nice. Outside of that, not a lot of embellishment. Definitely not a knife that was designed to be ultra flashy, though. They did the sand polish on it, which the result here was a blade that looks slightly more shiny than a satin finish. Now, here's the truth. I think this actually looks really nice, right? My issue is when they do the sand polish, there's like this massive range of aesthetic that you could get. You could get something that looks like a belt satin finish. You could get something like this that kind of looks in between, or you could get a finish that's near mirror, like on my Satyr. They need to get that consistency down. However, on this knife, which is $50, I don't really care all that much because the worst case scenario is that it's going to end up looking like a satin finish, which is pretty standard for this price range. Best case scenario, it's near mirror. My guess is most of them will look like this. A lot of people say, well, it certainly depends on the steel that the finish is being applied to. The Satyr that I have is S90V. And that's going to be a little bit harder composition to apply this finish to, and that's the one that has the near mirror finish on it. So that if they can do it there, they can definitely do it here. The AR RPM 9 is not going to be nearly as difficult to apply a high reflectivity finish to. So really what I'm saying here is that they just lack consistency. But it doesn't really matter. I think it actually looks pretty good. This is a compound tanto, certainly nothing we've never seen before, but it is nice, and it does get very, very thin right here. You have a little bit thicker secondary edge up here, but still not very thick. When you're sharpening this, you'll be sharpening two separate edges. Not that big of a deal, but definitely something to pay attention to. It's like I see stuff like this and I'm like, oh, they should offer a standard like a drop point blade or something with continuous curvature. I guess they could do a number of different blade shapes. This is giving it a little bit more personality than some other budget knives on the market, but then again, not really. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that looks like this, but it's fine. And they did a good job with it. The bevel is even on both sides. Got a nice flat here, nice swedge. Says CJRB on the front, and it's got all this stuff all over the back, AR RPM 9. Designer logo right here, which I'll show off, try and get that actually focused. Are we not wanting to focus? There we go. And then some sort of code, which always bothers me. The billboarding on CJRB knives looks like some sort of NASCAR branding, and I always can't help but think that it would look better without it. I think CJRB should consider just making their logo smaller. In fact, that's kind of, as I progress through this whole knife thing, the more that I see knives with branding and stuff like that, I'm just like, man, if it has to be there, just make it really, really small. But no big deal, right? Ergonomically, it's pretty comfortable. We have a knife profile that is hardly different from some of the thousands of other popular knife designs out there, right? You have basically this index finger position, primary index finger position. We have a straight back, straight up here. We've got some nice chamfering all the way around. Like I said, peel ply texturing. Got a little notch for your thumb back here on this harpoon area right before the swedge. Got a little bit of a choke up spot. Not really a choil, just a flat area for your finger to rest. Be careful you don't run your finger up on the blade. But all in all, it's okay. It's not, oh my gosh, magic, but you'll lock into it and you'll be fine. You won't drop it, and it's pretty comfortable. The pocket clip is also seeing to the fact that it is not uncomfortable. There's no crazy bill sticking up, and the pocket clip is relatively short. So right or left-handed, you should be fine. This is a right-handed liner lock, but as you can see here, it's plenty easy to manipulate with the left hand. I'm right-handed. It's not a problem for me. Let's see here. Anything else I wanted to talk about? Not really. No lanyard hole, but nobody really cares anymore. Couple of standoffs. The liners are milled out for weight reduction. Like I said, they are in both sides, which is pretty cool. Pocket clip can be flipped over for lefty carry, which I think we already talked about there. We have a stop pin located actually internally attached to the blade, riding on channels on either side of the steel liners. So that's fine. No blade play up, down, left to right. Knife runs on bearings. You probably could have guessed. No lock stick, no pivot lash. Extremely consistent in here. We'll say that CJRB definitely has gotten better with their pivot consistency over time. I remember the days where CJRB was kind of, whoa, did you fill it with sand before you shipped it out? But no, not anymore, really. The detent is kind of a thud, but it's okay. Nothing wrong with that. There's no detent lash or anything, and the blade is perfectly centered as far as I can tell. So this is a $50 knife. It is reminiscent of the bug out and about a bajillion other designs that came both before and after the bug out. You can't really, this is like the most classic knife profile in the world. They're not really doing anything different here. They're also not doing anything spectacular with the price tag. So it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a knife that I want to overly celebrate in the budget category, but it's also not a knife that I, am like, oh my gosh, it's so bad, don't buy it, right? If you like how this looks, go for it. This is a new release from CJRB, and I knew a lot of people were interested, and I wanted to talk about it, but after handling it, it's just not very special. There's not anything ultra special going on here, but for $50, it's a fine knife. It'll treat you well. It's built by CJRB and has a decent steel, right? It's good to go. This is going to go in my cheap knives I like playlist, and that's it. I'm not going to say go out and beat down doors to get this one, but if you do pick it up, I think you'll enjoy it. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.